Hi, this is Dr. Megan,
This is Joe Smith.
and we're back with another episode of the Do Better podcast. And today I'm so excited. We have a special guest. Jerrod Zertuche is here with us to talk about his experience, very unique experience in the field of behavior analysis, and a little bit about kind extinction as well.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Good to be here. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Joe.
Yes.
Dr. Megan and Joe.
So
Love it.
we have some questions prepared for you, but they're not like super difficult or anything. And then we do have
Cool.
some folks joining us live from our membership, so they might have questions as well. But the first question is really just to have you introduce yourself. I was gonna read your bio and stuff, but I think it's more fun to hear it from you. Who you
Man,
how'd
that
you
bio was amazing.
get
Yeah, it's hard. I don't like to brag about, I don't know. I don't like to talk about myself that much, but
here?
when I read your bio, it was pretty, yeah, I was like, wow, she did a good job. So thank you for that, for
You're
sure.
welcome.
Yeah, so let's see here. I'm Jerrod. I've been in the field for about 12 years now. But June 2012 is how I kind of look at it. I guess almost 13. And so I started off with as a therapist. Um, Moved my way up to be a BCBA in 2016, and worked for the big corporations. Then I worked for another one who got bought out by a big corporation, and you can kind of smell the blood in the water a little bit. And that's kind of a pretty outlandish metaphor, but you get what I'm saying. And then it's moved to Palo Alto, and then went to a company, and then I just I don't know. I guess my background is more, I started my own practice. And through starting my own practice, I also feel like I had a lot more time on my hands because I'm not being shoved 50 hours a week of work. And I think through that, I got to explore more avenues of how we can, what we can bring to ABA, right? And I was on a men's team, and one of the questions, super life changing to me, was, "What's your purpose in life? Like, what are you here to do?" And a part of me was like, "Yeah, ABA, helping folks on the spectrum. That scratches an itch, but not it doesn't scratch the full purpose of who I am." And I got to thinking of experiences that I loved, and it was parent training. That's really the biggest ripple effect that you can cause in a community, is going down to the family systems, and educating them, letting them know. At the time, it was behaviorism, and then I got into parent coaching certification. I actually got rejected by my first school because I was a behavior analyst. So that's kind of, I think, how our field looks, like our psychology field in general looks at behaviorism, which I didn't really know at the time until I got that bitter taste, and I was like, what's going on here? Is behaviorism, and we've got plenty of great things to give to our clients. Why is that not being okay in the parent coaching, or even just like the softer sciences world, right? Like interpersonal neurobiology comes to mind, Dr. Siegel, and Payne, Dr. Payne. Like, what is it about that? So I had to apply to JAI, and then JAI, the Institute of Parenting, they were like, "Yeah, come on in." I learned their parent coaching style, and what, like, the two biggest concepts that are not in behaviorism, came up, and that was validation and co-regulation. And those two concepts, like, to bring it into kind extinction, are in kind extinction. And so Tarbox back in 2023 released a study on kind extinction. And really what it comes down to is, based on the function of a behavior, you can still validate a person's emotional experience, right, without agreeing with it, and not have an attention function connected to it. I think that's like when I was a behavior therapist, and even as a BCBA, the scary part of talking to a client when they're going through a tantrum is we don't want to add an attention function to it. And now I look at that and I that needs to change, right? Like do better. We got to do better. That's not good enough. That's not. It's really doing a disservice to our clients. It's ignoring them when they need that emotional cushion the most, especially the clients that we work with, right? I mean, all this is like generally how we can do better as parents, clinicians, and so, I guess my first purpose was parent coaching, parents out, and then this came into my life, and I was like, "Uh-oh, I have a conundrum here. I'm confused. Like behaviorism saying, do not do this. It can do this, and then I have another set of concepts that are more modern, right? Like the neuroscience, the interpersonal neurobiology, basically saying those concepts like let's do that. And I'm like, oh man, I've got a knot in my chest. I got some tenseness in my throat. Like what am I supposed to do? Tarbox and Tarbox comes in and they're like, let's do both. Let's have Kind Extinction really be, validating statements. In behavioral terms, it's different. I'm sorry, I don't have it off the top of my head. And also co-regulation, which isn't an observable behavior now, but we have measuring tools that can measure how regulated we are, right? HRV comes to mind. There's probably more as well, but like on our wristwatch, or even like these little like headsets for the brain, how regulated we can be, because that also helps our kiddos become regulated and anyone else around us. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's kind of why I'm here. I mean, I love that there's other people talking about this too, Megan, and I was very surprised and also like, I belong here, because I'm not a traditional BCBA, and the Do Better Collective is that. So appreciate letting me be on here.
Yeah, thanks. Jerrod, you basically just answered all the questions we had for you. Just kidding.
I
We'll
know
get
it.
deeper on stuff, but a couple of things came up before Joe asked you the next question. You were talking about, coming into the field first from like this parent coaching perspective, and then that
Yeah.
conundrum and that conflict you experience. And I'm curious, we do have a few folks on from our membership. I'm curious, Joe, and like anyone else that is on who experienced that, because I came into the field without any sort of background. Like Joe was a teacher, special education teacher. I came
Oh,
straight in
cool.
as a psychology student, and only,
Nice.
I mean, I had babysat, but like I had never done anything from like a human services standpoint. And
Gotcha.
I vaguely remember being at my first site for like an unpaid internship where they were using ABA, and seeing them pinch a child's cheeks like this to try to get
Yeah.
them to stop engaging in a coex. And I was like 2021. And I was like, that's
Wow.
nice. Like, why are they doing that? And they were just
Yeah.
quickly like, oh, the data, it'll like, blah, blah, it's good for him. And I just blindly believed them, like, okay,
Yeah.
if these experts say that, this is what's best for the child, and his cheeks got red as the day went on. And I definitely was not interrogating enough, critically thinking enough, anything. I was just like an
I
undergrad
know. I
little
know, Megan. Yeah, I feel the same way. I feel the same way, that there are many clinicians in my life that told me, oh yeah, no, we have to follow through, which means physically prompt. Okay, okay. And I never felt good with that. I never felt good after session,
yeah.
or ignore, and this stuff kind of brings those moments up for me, which it's transformative, really. Like, let's just look at the bright side. There's some emotions that come up when I do think of those moments. And then it like gives me more amp, like more amplitude or more like rocket fuel to get this word out. Cause then that causes more burnout, right? Then that causes like, I'm doing things that don't align with my values, but are prescribed, right, from my supervisor. So yeah, I get that 100%.
Well, the part that I'm getting more concerned about, I'm very appreciative of you sharing, Jerrod, and talking about that emotional side. And I know there's a good number of people in our field that would experience that, which I
Yeah,
want Joe, when I'm done rambling, to chime in, and then anyone else who wants to. But what
yeah, please.
my values at that time as 20, 21, and then through grad school was data, science, rigid,
uh,
no human
right,
situation. Like I was not taught to value the human
right,
or any, like, so none of, I couldn't recall to you, besides that first day, having initially early on in my career any sort of experiences like what you described, because I didn't have anything to contrast it with. I didn't have any previous training
gotcha.
background that was like training me
Yeah,
to value things. And I know our field shifting, that was back in the early 2000s, but I do worry that there are still a lot of grad programs, a lot of supervision programs,
right,
things
right.
happening where the primary thing that
Yeah,
people are being taught to value is like the data and the procedure and the fidelity and and they're not being taught the things that someone like you who came in with a different background, you had fluency, you had already been taught to value, so you're immediately like, whoa, red flags, like what is this that it doesn't
cognitive
do,
dissonance.
you know?
Cognitive dissonance is like an overstatement, really, because I then I started thinking about, whoa, I this whole time I could have been doing something way better for not even just the client, but for myself, you know? Yeah, I mean, before Joe, sorry, I gotta make this known. Like Tarbox and Tarbox, Courtney, when she does her presentation, she says, "Hey, what I was doing to my own kids, I didn't feel okay with. And so this is why I wanted to do research on validation and co-regulation, which is, and all the buzz in social media. So, thank God for social media. Thank God for like this connection of like other sciences that we can, hone in into ABA and just cause so much more, just have it be so much more, of a connective and I like that connection over cooperation, right? Framework.
Yep.
And I think I came in a little bit different from like you, Megan, because as a teacher, like we were got that compassion and that human side first as a teacher, and then coming into the field, it was it was interesting because like I never experienced like the oh you got to do the data procedure correctly like because I was already a teacher and I understood that the values and the human side and meeting where the child's at. So it was different when I fully got into the field and hearing all these stories. I'm like, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
And I always tell people I would like to say that the reason, and I was very fortunate because before people were talking about kind extinction or any trauma informed or anything like that, I had a client in 2007 that didn't respond to the typical procedures that we are trained on for extinction. And
Mm.
so I had to be like creative and think out of the box and come up with different ways to support him. And I did, and it worked. And that's the 7 steps of instructional control with Robert Schramm that we now call 7 steps of instructional motivation. I came up with that client without having read Robert's stuff. But he and I connected on like a Yahoo listserv. So for any of you who are old enough
Oh
to know
wow.
what that is,
Yeah.
so that was back,
That's
like that was many years ago. And I would love to say that like my initial motivation for transitioning away from extinction was seeing the human side, but I was so conditioned so much for the procedures we were trained on that it was more like, where's the data? Like what's showing me is going to be effective. And of course, there was no one else talking at that time about doing anything else besides, well, at least in what I was seeing at conferences and whatnot. I'm sure practitioners were that I didn't know, but Robert and I were like the two main people. And then of course I got to train people on it and things like that. But eventually, I think around like it took 2 years. By 2010, I was like, we're doing this because it's the right thing to do. Like we're doing
Ah,
it this way because this is humane. And of course, when I had my son and like also working on a multidisciplinary team and talking to so many people outside of behavior analysis, that was like, what's up with that extinction stuff? It's awful.
yeah,
And I was like, oh yeah. Learn
yeah.
more about emotional regulation and all the stuff, Jerrod, that you had probably learned about previously. So I'm really
Mhm.
excited to see more and more people learn
Yeah.
about this. I'm definitely going to let Joe ask you a question here in a second. But I'm very concerned that there's people like me. I get lots and lots of people that contact us, like you, Jerrod, and others who are like, I'm so happy. I want to practice this way. And now I have a space that shows me I can. But I'm
Yeah.
worried about the people who don't want to practice this way,
Right. Yeah.
who have, it's not their fault, right? But like it have been so conditioned and so trained that extinction and more like hands-on procedures are fine and they're just like part of our science and it's okay. That how do we reach them? I'm really
Hmm.
concerned about that.
Yeah, I mean, just what we hit on it earlier, cognitive dissonance. It's a powerful thing. Like people don't want to be told you're doing something wrong.
Yep.
And I had that indirectly. And we're kind of doing that right now, right? Where hey, these the things that we're doing with extinction can be done a different way where it feels so much better to everybody around. I mean, that's really to me the inspiration, the motivation, right? Like, hey, when you ignore a child or put your hands on them, right, to follow through, physically prompt, whatever you want to call it, like, how does that feel versus validating statements, letting them know I'm here, I know you're having a rough time. We can have a break, or whatever, maybe if it's escape extinction, tangible extinction, access tangible, you know, that feels good. Like I've done it enough times to where um, I no longer need the training for it because I think the training that I'm going to be doing in the Kind Extinction webinar is a mental rehearsal training connected to behavioral skills training. So I'm going to, kind of give you the information, the education on like, hey, Kind Extinction works and it's way better when it comes to social validity, right? When it comes to is mom and dad on board with this? Yeah, they are. That sounds amazing. And then, when Tarbox talks about giving it to her therapist to run, they're like, oh my gosh, yes, this is why I joined. This is why I'm an ABA, right? Like I didn't join it to be I'm going to tell you what to do and you're going to do what I say because that's how I teach. No, that's not who I am at all. It's more of I guess you get the softer science, right? And the fun part, the playful, the connection. That's what really increases the amount of learning. So it's the cognitive dissonance and um I think it's also like when I was talking about mental rehearsal, like how do I do that? Because people are like their neural connections, wrong word, neural connections are so into either ignoring or let's physically prompt or some other thing that doesn't really feel good to them. It's not going to feel good when you make the switch, that does feel good, and your brain and body are going to want to do that more often. So it's not as big of a hill to take as people, I think, really like might be afraid to take. And you know, I use Well, and within the Kind Extinction webinar, I'm going to do some guided meditations which go over, and I'm going to, I can base that in science because there's evidence out there that mental rehearsal really does get you into or, like help you increase the skill that you want to do, right? So that's what I'm looking forward to be doing for the CEU webinar, because that cognitive dissonance coupled with what does that look like? How does that feel like in my body? How do I do that when a client is screaming and yelling? Because it's like that's the hardest part is when there's maladaptive behavior happening. Your body's just going to go straight into, okay, let's do what we usually do versus let's parent or therapy or BCBA from love, right?
That's awesome. I'm super excited for the webinar that you're going to be doing with Do Better on Kind Extinction on the 27th of August.
Yeah.
So with that webinar, do you have an idea like what you like the structure of like how you want to what you're presenting? And I know you
Yeah.
talked a little bit about like the different things that you're going to do,
Yeah.
but can
So
you,
first off is going to give them the information. I think the first hour or so is going to be, hey, this is what Tarbox and Tarbox found out. And then the next half hour or the next hour or so is going to be, now I'd like to kind of do a mental training on this, right? It's great to give you the information and kind of let you run away with it. But really change comes from role playing or doing it over and over again. And that's the behavior skills training model, right? Is what do we, I mean, unfortunately we don't have clients to kind of role play with, but we can do it in our minds. And there's evidence where piano players get better results when they just mentally rehearse. There's nurses there's a really good study on nurses who there's a kind of like the same amount of crises that we can be in our field, right? Like maladaptive behaviors, or we got to do split second decision making skills in nursing. Forgot what the protocol is, but I believe I added it into the presentation. And when they do mental rehearsal skills, they're way better off. They're way more capable, way more prepared to do such and such skill during a crisis. And so give you that information. And then I'm going to go into somatic psychology. The body keeps the score, right? That famous book. And Megan, do you know who wrote that? The body keeps the score. I forgot.
I'm so bad at remembering.
Okay. I know. I saw your you know that. Yeah, you know that. But it really comes from our body. When our body is saying, oh no, client is non-compliant, or wanting to escape, or I don't feel good about myself. Like it really comes down to the self-limiting beliefs that we have too. So I don't want to get like too deep into this, but I also want to kind of portray our body as a flag, an alert system, and being able to retrain our bodies into feeling safe when our client gets says no, and this is what I do with parents too, right? Like the common occurrence is they say no, they ignore, or really the feelings of like I'm not a good parent, I'm not a good therapist, I'm not enough. Those kinds of feelings come up on a daily, hourly, maybe even minute basis in ABA. And we don't do our therapists and anyone working directly with kiddos a service by not helping them and supporting them through that. So that's kind of another part of my purpose too, is like, dude, our therapists, our BCBAs, our caretakers, they're going to resort to a lot of things that they were taught, throughout their lifetime. And in order for us to help support them in doing these new validation, co-regulation skills that really do such a number, not only on their nervous system, but the people that they're supporting, there comes some education on what's happening inside of them in order for them to like be willing to cause change within their mind and body and actions, right, and their behaviors, and then also to take action on it. So that's what I'm going to be educating on, like the last half. It's for over here. The last half would be education on somatic psychology in a nutshell.
That sounds fantastic. When you said about mental rehearsal, it automatically reminds me of the movie Cool Runnings, where the
Nice.
leader
Yeah.
of the team was in the hotel room looking through the pictures of the different turns, and he's just mentally rehearsing going through the movements with driving the bobsled.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Athletes have used this, yes, for I mean, I don't think there's a lot of science and data that says that they're doing it, but I was on the drum line. I remember my drum instructor be like, "Hey, you're on the bus. There's no talking. You are performing right now in your head what the whole performance is right now." And yeah, it works when you can actually, when you have that capability to focus and be there in the moment. It's can cause change for sure. Better performance.
Yeah.
Definitely. I did that back when I was in marching band too.
Oh, sick. What'd you play?
Alto saxophone.
Yeah, that's cool. Nice. That's fun.
I did
Yeah, it
it
was,
in gymnastics.
What'd you put? What, Megan?
I can play an instrument. You don't want to hear me play an instrument. Gymnastics. I remember like our coaches went to coaching conference and came back and they were like, okay, we're going to start doing this mental rehearsal. And we were like 9, 10 years
Wow.
old. We were like, what? What are we doing?
Yeah, huh? What'd you play, Megan?
Oh, it was gymnastics.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, your body? Yes. Contorting. Yes, yes, all that. Oh, wow. And like what did you think of that?
Well,
I
we were
remember.
kind of young, so we were partially happy that we didn't have to sit and do a bunch of pull-ups and we were able to just lay there
Yeah.
and imagine our routine. But
Yeah, huh?
but it
Yeah.
definitely was helpful for like calming nerves and, really picturing. But what's interesting is for me
Yeah.
personally, I'm not very good I'm more of a verbal person. I'm not really
Cool.
a visual person. So
Yeah.
even sitting there and trying to like imagine my routine or like rehearse it, it was difficult. And it would be
Mm-hmm.
now
Mm-hmm.
too. But I still like BST and practicing, especially as behavior analyst, practicing like what we're going to say, because
Yeah.
I think that's a really important piece. Like if we don't have fluency with what we're going to say in those difficult moments, then we're going to fumble and it's going to be
Right.
more stressful than not.
Yeah.
So that piece I think is
Mm-hmm.
really helpful, but I think that's helpful for people to understand in general. Like if you're rehearsing something, you can visualize stuff that's great, but you can also just going through the actual like steps and thinking about them and talking to yourself about them.
Mm-hmm.
All of that is important.
Yes. The body, right? Like bottom up kind of procedures and top down procedures. So we, like going back to this example of picturing a problem behavior that you would like to use more softer response to, right? So just picturing that in your mind, working with parents, and then I think my own struggles could be when a kiddo says no, when a kiddo is ignoring, right? Like that's kind of the age old like button pressing of you're not doing something right, like you got to do something else. And so really like, you can close your eyes, you can, for me, it's like getting in a regulated state. So, kind of where baseline is and where like when your body's very relaxed and grounded. And then I'll ask, bring up that problem behavior, right? Are you in the kitchen? Are you in the living room? Are you out in the community? And press play on the video. And so, whatever happens, happens. And then like the problem behavior occurs, right? And then take a nice deep breath, because there's probably going to be some somatic activation happening either in the chest or the back of the neck or shoulders or really anywhere, maybe in the gut. And then like really acknowledging that discomfort in your body, right? We're going to like press pause on the video and really just know that that's there when the behavior is occurring. And we're just doing it right in front of the computer screen in like, a safe space. So really coming into contact with that somatic, sensations that can happen, and then taking a nice deep breath in, right? Like really trying to like imagine that part of us. I don't know. There's different ways that you can kind of. Now I'm kind of getting out of behaviorism, and I feel like this audience is like, "Whoa, this guy is really weird." um, okay, all right.
We had a whole podcast on somatic, so it's fine.
Oh, good. Thank you. All right, sweet. Yeah, it's funny. That voice in my head is like, "Hey, what about? Where's the science?" If someone's gonna be like, "Hey, what's this guy talking about? Where's the science to back this up?"
You know what's wild
sure
though, Jerrod?
Yeah.
There's more science to back that up than there is science saying we shouldn't know about that.
See, that's where I am uneducated, and I need, like, I love that you are the trailblazer in this, and you know about the science, and you're like, yeah, don't worry about that. Like, it feels good. I've made plenty of good change from this, and then also the program that I'm in. I'm at I'm getting my doctor of psychology, and that's one of the biggest things that we're doing right now is somatic, like what's happening in the body. Like I said, that's really the check engine light, right? So we can figure out, okay, what's happening? Is it because I'm embarrassed because I'm out in the community? Is it because I'm not feeling good enough because this is happening, right? There's a couple things that are icky to say or icky to think, but that's what our body is telling us. And so just to be embracing that, right? Just to accept it and know, like, oh, this is out of love. These parts of us that are being activated, it's telling us something that we can do inner work with, right? Do inner work on, so we don't have to give young people or people around us, I guess, like, we don't pass that off to them, right? Is kind of the feeling there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's wild that like people we have an entire body with organs and neurons and like blood and
Yes.
veins and like all of these things that are interconnected and like doing stuff to keep us alive. And
Yeah.
there are behaviorists who are like, none of that stuff matters. Are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah. It's all stuff in the head. I know, Megan, as I'm getting deeper into this, the more like other psychology, neuroscience, now I'm understanding, like, people can be disconnected from their head to their body, and I feel like I was that way. I don't. It's hard to say whether or not, because now I'm really attending to my body, but before it was all up in the head, and I feel like that's what behaviorism, kind of entails. And luckily there's like more tools. There's, like I was saying, the wristwatches, there's different ways for us to not only connect to our bodies, but like have it quantified. So we can see, we can like observe the effect that it has on our internal environment.
We're all over the place. I hope everyone's enjoying it.
I know.
I'm gonna I'm gonna pause for a second. We still have a few folks on. Does anyone have thoughts or questions based on all the ramblings we've been doing? This is why I love
Seriously,
it. We just get to like say what we want.
let's go on the neuroscience trip. That's funny.
Not seeing anyone type in anything yet. Joe?
One thought I
Well,
have is like, so, and you can tell me, you know, based on your understanding, but like, so how does kind extension and using uh like universal protocols, like how does that align with each other, or do they, or are they separate? Would you say?
mm, universal protocols.
So that's
What
like
do you mean
for
by
PFA, SBT, what Hanley talks about having in place when you're running mostly folks who are using PFA, SBT. I would say that in some ways, if you're implementing kind extinction, then you likely in the universal protocol that you make. So the universal protocol is like the framework that you're operating from. So it's like these are the general things we do in our session, and
mm,
hopefully it's aligned with some sort of values. Like these are our values and how we practice. So we make
yeah.
decisions based off of aligning with values and not just like overly focused on outcomes. So
Mhm.
if I'm trying to decide in the moment what to do with a client, and my top value is a safety, and they're doing something that's like not safe, then I'm not
Mhm.
necessarily following some black and white behavior plan. I'm thinking in the moment, how do I keep this person safe? And the
Mm,
universal protocols usually have some sort of additional guidance on like, if you're worried about safety, do X, Y, and Z kind of stuff. But everyone
mm,
creates their own, like Hanley has some suggested ones, and there's folks who have created their own as well and have like published them for people to see as an example. So my
yep,
interpretation would be that like from the kind extinction side, you might work those strategies into your universal protocols depending on how well they align with the rest of your focus.
I see.
I
I
love that.
see. So, yeah, I mean, safety and connection, I think, is another value there that when it comes to validation and co-regulation, um, that also increases the ability for the learner to learn, right? The ability for them to feel safe enough to for the stuff that you're teaching them to kind of stick, so to speak. Um, so yeah, when it comes to universal protocol, the values of for me, yeah, safety and connection is big.
Awesome. I love it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
No problem.
Oh, I think you're muted, Megan, unless you're. Oh, cool.
I didn't even press mute. I just like clicked my screen and apparently it muted me. Anyway, one of the things I was thinking about, that this is why we only write down a few questions because I just think of things. Um, this idea of like the mental rehearsal and helping people, have more fluency with this, and then also just feeling like how good it feels to interact differently. But one of the things, I'm just going to keep being like devil's advocate here. One of the things that
Please.
came up for me is I
Yeah.
definitely know, again, when I first started in the field and I have colleagues, I don't know how much it represents the current population of behavior analysts. It might be a very small percentage, but there's definitely, I would love if we had more people on, but if anyone is here and brave enough to like put a Y in the chat, which is more uncomfortable for you, baseline, that coming up with validating and empathetic statements in the moment on the fly, or repeating a prompt over and over. So if it's
Ah,
validating and empathetic statements, put that's more uncomfortable, put a yes. If that's less uncomfortable, put a no. If we'll see if I don't know how many people are still okay. For Joe, it's no. Jerrod, yes. So like for me personally, because like I wasn't ever again, the way that our training programs were set up in the early 2000s, but still even today, I would say maybe it's like 50-50 today, but in the early 2000s, it was probably like 80-20.
Wow.
We
Yeah.
aren't trained how to be empathetic, how to
Mhm.
validate, all of that kind of stuff. We're trained to be the enforcer, we're reinforced for it as well. Like we get battle scars and like we're taught that like, if we can put up with an extinction burst, we're like superheroes and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So when you flip it and it's like now we're going to have you start like being soft and saying like validating and empathetic things, that's actually what creates the discomfort in people's bodies. Like
Right.
they've like
Sure.
become so desensitized to these
Yeah.
procedures that should be very dysregulating, that should cause a lot of distress for both parties,
Mhm.
the person implementing and the person receiving. But
Yeah.
the adult has become desensitized by however many years and all the reinforcers provided for engaging in the more like cold, scientific, like aligned type stuff. And like
Yeah.
what's been punished and not reinforced is being values driven, being soft, being empathetic, all of that kind of stuff. So I think that's
Hmm.
one thing that like I doubt for when you do the webinar with us, but I bet
Yeah.
there's like at least a subgroup of people where like a
Sure.
whole different approach would be needed for like,
Yeah.
let's navigate the discomfort you're feeling with being
Yeah.
empathetic.
Yeah. And that discomfort, right? To me, it comes to being vulnerable, to be it and not in control, right? Like when you say an empathetic statement and validate, you're hope, like you are vulnerable. You are almost like telling a joke. Is someone gonna laugh? Oh, it's validating. I'm telling you a validating statement. I know it's hard right now. I feel you. It's totally okay to feel that way. And to be genuine about it is another aspect of it. But even if it's a script, that feels better than ignoring or nope, we got to do it, or physically prompting. Like even if it is like just say this, and even if you sound like a robot, just that's fine. That you're I think the more times you say it, the more times your brain and body are going to be like, oh, this feels good. Another human being is, gosh, not feeling well right now for whatever it may. They're having a hard time right now, um, and there's a vulnerable thing that we're doing because we're not being in control, which to me is the behavior aspect. Maybe I'm missing something there. I'd love to talk more about that, because thank you, Megan. That is a huge part of like when you do say a vulnerable phrase, like I know I would feel that same way. I felt that way, blah blah blah, or however you want to say it, however you want to validate. I've just noticed that to me, when I talk to parents about it too, but to me, when there's a big emotion that's coming my way, um, I like to think of me like riding the wave of that emotion, and that is, oh man, tell me more. Oh wow, yeah, I would feel that way too. And it's amazing when I don't push back, or when I don't say like it's not that big of a deal, because that's what I was trained on, right? Is big deal, no big deal, or we used to do this one called Shades of Gray. So what's an emergency, or what's really a crisis, and what's not. And I remember every time I did that, I never got a good response. I never got like a de-escalating response, right, from my kiddos. And now when I do validate and co-regulate too, it's the de-escalation happens so much sooner. You mentioned extinction burst earlier, and that's another thing that Tarbucks and Tarbucks had was, during their research, like they didn't have an extinction burst. And so, yes, there needs to be more studies done. But how amazing is it that usually an extinction burst occurs during a traditional extinction, and then in this one study, it was a nice gradual decline. Now gosh, so looking into the future, we don't need to talk about extinction bursts to our families, to our, share, stakeholders. So it's, to me, it's, yes, it's a kind of an uncomfortable long road for ABA to go on. Like we really, this is like, I think it goes pretty deep. Like what the trail that we're blazing, right, Megan, is what we'd like to do. And it comes with being patient and understanding, like, hey, I used to do that too. I used to feel the exact same way with the cognitive dissonance. I used to not know how to validate in the moment. And it just takes someone to guide, and it could be mentally rehearsing. It could just be, man, mentally rehearsing is really effective, but also, I mean, obviously on the job, or, in the field, modeling it and whatnot. But that's, to me, the future of not only ABA, but parenting as well, I guess. Yeah.
Although I brought this up in our meeting earlier, have any of you seen the little I haven't read it yet. I've just had it sent to me going around, I think from the Wall Street Journal, and it's FAFO parenting.
FAFO.
F
What's
around
that?
and find out.
Oh, and what's that?
F around and find out. Like,
Oh gosh.
yeah. So that's the new response to gentle parenting, apparently, because people don't understand what gentle parenting is.
Oh,
Let's
yeah.
go to an
So,
entirely different extreme, but it's basically just like
yeah.
be an asshole to your kids and they'll do
Mm,
it. It reminds me of like old school,
old
like,
school.
well,
Yeah.
this is what we all experienced and let's get back to that because but this is what I'm talking about. I think there are so many people with the way our society is and like culture and everything. It's like it does take, and I've talked about this in like TikToks and stuff too, but it takes so much more cognitive effort and energy from me, even knowing what I know, to like
Yeah.
engage with my son or other people in that empathetic, validating, supportive way than to just
Mhm.
be an asshole. Than to just be like,
Yeah.
"We're doing this," and like make someone do whatever it is that I said. Now,
Mhm.
obviously, the first one is more analytical and more aligned with our science, but somehow the second one, extinction with forced prompting and planned ignoring, won. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that is the procedure that has
Right.
dominated our field for years, despite very little evidence to support its effectiveness, and especially
Mm.
no evidence to support its effectiveness in schools, in homes, in the settings that we work in. But it
Yeah.
is wildly popular. But why?
It's
Because
easy. It's easy. It's the easy way out, and it's not connecting. I mean, you don't feel good doing it. You know, and there's that regret that can happen. And then, further down the road, like the future of the world is in our children's hands, and we have AI. We have different challenges that we're coming up against. So it's to me, and like, this is my point of view. I'd love to talk more about it, but it's those kids who want to dare authority, who want to innovate, who are safe enough in their bodies and safe enough in their emotions, that and that want to be creative, and that's who's going to kind of evolve with our society, right? And yes, cool. There's going to be people who also can be compliant and do the things that authority figures tell them to. You know, that's great. We need that too. But it's the kiddos who have that loving and safe environment in their homes, that are going to dare to innovate. It's kind of how I see it.
yeah. I think sometimes it can be two extremes too, like the people
Mhm.
who have the environments that they like they don't want other people to have to experience
Mhm.
that environment, like are usually innovative as well. If they
That's
have
true.
somehow some enough support somewhere to have the opportunity
Hmm.
and because that privilege isn't typically there. Like they can look and be like, this is awful and it needs to be different, but they don't have
Right.
the opportunity to do anything with it.
Definitely. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they could be motivated that way.
All right, we've been all over the place. I'm so happy that we got to chat
I
today.
know.
Joe, did you have any other questions for Jerrod?
No, I appreciate you being on and just going through
Yeah, thank you.
and explain it more. So I love it.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for August 27th. It's gonna be great.
We don't have the link yet for folks to register, but we will be posting it soon when it's up, hopefully sometime this week. So keep an eye out for that. We do still have a few folks on live. Before I close out, I just want to see if anyone else has thoughts or questions that they want to share with Jerrod. The Kind Extinction article is open source, so I'll have that linked in the show notes for folks who want. And then I have some other extinction resources for people if they want to check those out. We've done quite a few podcast episodes talking about this topic over the years.
Good.
So
Good. Yeah, great.
hopefully folks will want to check that out too. But Jerrod, we
Yeah,
really
even on YouTube. Oh, yeah, thank you, Megan. Even on YouTube too, you can look up Charbox Kind Extinction. They have it on there too. So more the merrier. Thank you, Dr. Megan. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Jerrod.
Yeah, appreciate your time.
all right. I don't see any questions coming through. Do you want to close us out, Joe?
Yeah. All right, team. It's time to go forth and do better.
Bye, everyone.
Yeah. Bye. Thanks again.